Hi, and welcome to another tutorial from Imagine Landscapes Designs. In this Nice to Gnome You tutorial, we will be taking this I-cord topping that gets narrower and narrower, I should say, and winding it up and attaching it so that it looks good and is secure. You can see that I still have the spare yarn that we put in around through the stitches of the one round here. So those are the ends that you can still see there. I've woven in the other ends to make this easier. This is the front of the hat. We have got two very sharply shaped decrease sections go on the sides, making this lay nice and flat as we're working. It doesn't matter which side that you do your spiral to, so it could spiral this way or it could spiral that way. It's up to you. The key thing is to get the spiral good and tight. So I'm already going to be placing the ends on my yarn needle here so that once I've got it ready, I'm ready to go. So the key thing is to start here at the center and kind of bring the ends up so that they're not getting stuck and in the way, and just start curling. All right, so I'm just going to keep rolling this around and around using the flat of the table to help me. Okay, so I'm just kind of rolling and rolling. I'm pretty sure the other two that I did with the hats to this side too, just because it's so much easier for me as a right-hander to do it this direction. So what you're looking for, and there is of course some possibility here in terms of choice. So you could get this nestled really snug and down onto this decrease line, or you could do it so that it's still standing a little bit, and because it won't be secured sort of to the diagonal and the base of the hat, this will have a bit more of a chance to sort of move around independently, whereas if you go all the way down, it's going to produce a much more stable but also a different look. So when I did my first two attempts at Gnicki, I was doing it more like this. I wanted a little bit of the hat to come through because I've got to get my needle and my hands up in there, but I wasn't going down all the way. So I'm just letting you know that there are choices and there isn't really a wrong way to do this. The key thing is once you've got it wound tightly is you kind of want the end with the tip with the ends to be roughly as much as possible facing at the hat, because what we need to do, and my cat attacked this hat earlier today, and he likes to kill gnomes. So it's very scary in this house for gnomes sometimes, which is why I bought a special display case. But so it got a bit of hair on it. So what I want to do is I want to go through that little tip where we were doing the 2-stitch I-cord, and then I'm going to go through the next layer of I-cord, and then I'm going to go through the thicker layer of I-cord and then in. And at this point, what I now need to do once I'm in the hat is I need to kind of go down, and I will explain why in just a sec. So I'm going to go down, reach up in there and grab that needle and pull through. Okay. So again, don't get too freaked out if you see some gaps happening, because we will be going and securing it in a bunch of places. Now, the reason I went in the way I wanted to, but then quickly changed the orientation and went down, is because if I'd just gone across, then I'd be coming out with the needle down here. So we're always going to be needing to go sort of down and into the hat. Now, the key thing when you're securing something is to not go down and come back in the same spot, because if you do, you run the risk that you'll just undo what you just secured. If you come back in the exact same spot, of course, that has nothing to anchor to. So what I suggest you do is, as you kind of go back, you want to make sure that you reach up, you feel where the end is inside, and then you go, okay, so I'm going to go a stitch or two higher or something like that. So let's just have a feel around in there. You can also just do this. See how I can now see that little gap? So let's leave that little gap there. Put my needle back up into the hat. Some of this you have to do kind of by feel. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I'm not going back in that exact same stitch, because again, that would undo it. So I'm going to go I'm going to go more like here. I'm going to come out. And then what I can do is I can pull tight and get that little gap to snug up. See, now we're snug. And so now what I want to do is I want to go across all of the I-cord options we have here. So we're going to go across, across. I'm going to go back into that little 2-stitch end. Then I'm going to go all the way. And as I do this, I'm making sure not to unwind it. So I kind of like, I could feel things kind of starting to open. So I kind of rejigged. I'm going to pull through. All right. So now we've got that sort of snug that way. Now the key thing again is don't go down in the exact same spot, but you want to disguise it. So between stitches, there's this running stitch that comes between the V of every stitch. And that's just sort of a natural place. So what I like to do is come up between 2 stitches if possible, and then go back down over here, and it will kind of hide itself. So I came across this way. So now what I want to do is I want to try to change the angle a little bit. So now you can see I'm sort of skimming the top. And then what I'm going to do this time, once I get this, this one in, is I want to start going so that I get some up and down rather than just side to side securing. So, okay, and you can see that one of the strands is a little bit more pointy or sticking up than the other. So I'm just going to grab onto each of those and see what's going on until I can get that, there we go, to kind of pull in. Then I'm going to redistribute my spiral so it's still looking pretty good. You can see we definitely want to seal up that. Depending on how things work, you might find it a bit easier to kind of make a, well, look at that, looks like a sailing ship. That is adorable. All right, so I'm going to go up and I'm going to end up here. I'm just going to do a quick kind of come out here, go through this one I-cord only. Because I want to now do some up and down. So I don't really like where I came out. I came out more on the side. So I'm going to go back in and come down a little bit lower. There's no real right and wrong way to do this. The key is just to keep changing angles until you feel like what you've done is secure. Obviously, if you're handing this to a child or someone else who will enthusiastically wave it around, you will want to secure this more. One of the dangers when pulling is if you pull too tight, you will get buckles. So you really want to make sure that before you go back down in, that you like the way the circle looks on the opposite side, sort of where you started it. So now I'm going to go, like I said, I'm going to go from here to here because that will hide my yarn sort of between the natural way of the stitches. This time I'm going to go kind of diagonally this way. So I'm going to go like that and go into the hat. And remember that until you've actually tied a knot or cut the yarn, you have the chance to undo this and go again. So this isn't just like a one-time only thing, just like so much of knitting. All right, so let's see how we're doing there. I think, see right there, it's a bit gapey. So I'm gonna, but it's feeling very stable when I'm pulling on it. It's not feeling like, ooh, that's a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's a precarious. It feels stable on the hat, but I just want to make it look a little better there. And don't forget that we haven't blocked the hat yet. And so when we block it, we'll have a chance to change the shape a little bit. We can also take, a chance to kind of even out some of the stitches. So this stitch is a bit bumpy there, but I can go to the stitch beside it and just kind of pull yarn across and even it out a bit. And then when we block it, that will disappear a lot. All right, so we got to get in, and I'm going to go through and catch a lot of these again, trying to go through that gap that I noticed making sure that I hit every coil as I go. And go, so I came up here, so I'm going to go down here so I came up sort of in the center of this stitch, so I'm going to come down in the center of that stitch, making sure to go on the other side of the running strand. And if you're finding it difficult, you know how I said don't come out the other side? I just want to make it clear that this really does hide very well. So if you want to come out the other side, that's totally fine. Just go and hide it. And then when it's time to go in, just go straight down, and then you can secure if you need to. So going on the outside of the hat, outside of the spiral, that's the place where we need to be most careful that it looks the way we want it to look and hides itself, but it's definitely possible. So that is how I'm going to do that. Once I'm happy with how it looks and I feel like, okay, so it's not got much in the way of gapping, there's a little bit there. I don't think I'm going to go back and do it because I'm not going to be handing mine to the kids, or my kids are in university, so I could. But I'm not worried about how much love this one's going to get that isn't just visual love. So I'll just tie it off, then I'll secure the ends and be ready. This is a great time to block it. You can soak it and lay it flat to dry, or you can steam block it. It will just kind of settle into itself and look great. It is obviously okay for it to be quite flat. You don't need to worry about this one having sort of stuffing it with tissue paper or something else to get it to block perfectly round, because let's face it, this hat was not designed to be perfectly round. This top bit was designed to have a bit of a crease, and so that's super fine. And if there's a bit of a crease along these areas where there isn't a decrease, that's still just fine. Thanks for coming along on this gnome adventure. This has been a tutorial for the Nice to Gnome You pattern, which is available on Ravelry and on PayHip. You can find more information about the Nice to Gnome Me pattern on imaginelandscapes.com. Have a great day and happy gnoming.